Oh, yes. Oh, here I am. Here I am. Is it 10 past or 20 past or whatever time? Are we ready to go? Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, isn't this a fantastic space? It's just amazing. I didn't come in here yesterday. So we are joined by you lovely people live and various people who are streaming this on YouTube and Facebook, and so hello to everybody who's out there remotely. So I'm going to introduce our panel. We're going to be talking about legacy, really, what being a city of culture means and how to make sure it has a lasting impact. And I'm also going to probe these marvellous people for their particular points of view rather than, so we get, personal points of view. I have to confess at this point that this is the first time I've met Debbie, and I've been a fan of hers for years. Because I think we're kind of the same age, and I was at university in London, and I started a theatre company, and Debbie had this amazing theatre company called Snarling Beasties, and they were just all over the place, winning Perrier Awards at Edinburgh and just being brilliant. And I, for some reason, was doing all my work abroad in the UK, in Europe and the US, and Debbie was like ruling London with her amazing theatre. So it's so lovely to meet you after having been a fan for so long.
Thank you.
So Debbie Isitt, and I've wanted also, that's the other thing I've wanted to know for 30 years, is whether it's Isitt or Isitt, and it is Isitt. And Trish, I've forgotten your surname.
Willetts.
Trish Willetts, who is Director of BID, Buildings...
The Business Improvement District.
Business Improvement District, which she'll explain is to do with, what a time to be alive. Poor thing. Trish gets this great job to make the business and the business centre and the centre of Coventry an appealing place to work and live and visit, and then we get hit by a pandemic and nobody can go to work. So I'd be interested to hear how difficult that's made your life. Absolutely. And then Martin, who you'll see is not Shanine, who is the creative director of City of Culture. Martin is the chief executive because Shanine is self-isolating, unfortunately. But I think you'll agree he's equally attractive. So, guys, do you want to do a sort of 5-minute each response to this question? How do we make sure that having this mantle of City of Culture leaves a lasting and useful legacy? And then we'll take questions and I'll ask questions. So starting with Debbie.
Oh, I knew you'd start with me.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Do you want to start with Martin because he's in charge?
He is in charge, yeah. I think that's a great idea.
Let's start with Martin.
All right, we'll start with me. So legacy, I guess, is always the big question for any of these, I guess, mega arts or mega sporting events. And I guess for us, the City of Culture, we've been thinking about this since the bidding process. My colleague Laura McMillan, who kind of led from the trust, in her title from the offset, it was the word legacy. So this is not something we come too late. And it's partly because the City of Culture title that was secured was part of the city's 10-year cultural strategy. So win it or lose the bidding process, they were still going to be investing in culture in the city. And of course, the City of Culture title has, I guess, accelerated progress against this 10-year cultural strategy. So it was always embedded from the outset that legacy was going to be very important, and there is no doubt that the legacy of former sporting and cultural events is questionable, and because it's really hard to maintain a team, maintain investment, maintain a spotlight after these massive moments. So we all have to work really, really hard to ensure that legacy is enshrined from the outset. So we've done that. We haven't got a solution yet. We haven't got a legacy plan. We haven't got our investment in place. But what we have got is, I guess, is a way of thinking. So what we did when we were building our teams and our approach was to ensure that not every single decision or not every single bit of resource or power flows through the trust. This is an independent body, but we have invested in organisations. We have producers working in grassroots charities. We support the wonderful work with the BID. We're paying for team members right across the cultural sector, but also supporting the cultural sector to try and deliver their ambitions. Hopefully not getting in the way too often. There's a bit of bureaucracy obviously related to funding, but hearing what cultural sector want to do and hopefully investing enough in them so that they can carry this forward. So the Trust has tried to not be all-powerful and getting in the way short-term bureaucracy. So So we created a structure in that way, but also we've, I guess, embraced the notion of co-creation from the outset as well. Again, not having a single point of expertise, and it's saying, actually, what do communities want to do in their city? But also, critically, how does that happen across the city? So not just in the city centre, every single ward in the city should be reached by City of Culture. And I guess the final thing I would say is also ensuring the City of Culture programme was about ensuring we provide platforms and resources to seldom heard communities. This is a youthful, diverse city, and the programme needs to represent that. But also what we were saying is that you don't need to be ready quite yet. You could be ready in 2 years' time, 3 years' time. This opportunity does not pass you by. And so City of Culture, we've got this big spotlight in 1 year and a plan for what comes later, so that it's not only those who were ready who take advantage of the opportunities. We can make sure we're embedding ways for people to be ready for the future as well. So how we look at the legacy is skills and investment in people, investing in organisations, and it being part of a bigger picture and not just a one-year party.
Yes, I suppose just before I move on to the other introductions, that raises a question, which is, obviously this spotlight goes, hey, you're City of Culture for a year, so you get to put on lots of events, and like Hull did the year before, and Londonderry and Liverpool. But what does culture in that sentence, City of Culture, actually mean? You know, it's not just let's have art exhibitions and put on plays and have cultural experiences, but can you just expand on how you interpreted the mantle, City of Culture?
Well, I mean, I really like the notion that through the bidding process, actually, we're a city of cultures.
Right.
So what we wanted to do is...
Which is a very different word, actually.
And so, but we wanted to recognise that, I guess, the dominant culture in the arts scene is not only what we wanted to throw a spotlight on here.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure that food, sport, community engagement, crafts, people sharing languages, breaking bread together, this has to feature within our programme, because what we're trying to do is to build communities, build society through culture. But also what we're trying to do is to ensure that the people who have come to this city, made this city their home, they will lead this city forward. And so what we're doing is saying we want to celebrate your cultures and your culture, and we also don't want to say the traditional art forms, I guess the westernised art forms, are the most dominant.
Yeah.
And so, because that is how we need to respond to the context of this particular city. Hull is a different thing because of the nature of their city and their residents and their purpose. Derry was very different again. The next City of Culture should be different again from Coventry, because we're not creating a blueprint. It's what's right for our city.
I love that. I love that idea that it's City of Cultures, not just culture. So let's move on to Trish. Can you just
Absolutely.
give your little
So,
intro?
afternoon all. I'm Trish Willetts. I'm the Business Director for the Business Improvement District in Coventry City Centre. So I look after the 700 businesses that we've got within the Ring Road, or as we affectionately call it in the bid, our moat. So any business within the moat we support and wholeheartedly love. We know when they've had a grandchild, we know when they're not well, we know absolutely everything about them. We know their Christian name, we know what they like to eat, and we certainly know what they like to drink. So I'm a mighty team of 4. Before the City of Culture started, I was a mighty team of 3. So one of the first investments that Martin and the team did was to give me another member of staff. It grew my business by 25%, which was a massive uplift for us. But when we were announced as the City of Culture on the 7th of December 2017, it was a moment for joy, cry, hug, love, touch, kiss. We did everything at that time. It was a moment to move forward as a city. I've been in the city for 5 years, and I am the West Midlands Combined Authority as a Brummie, living in Solihull, and as the bid director in the city centre. It's a moment in time for the region's change. So for me, the legacy of our City of Culture is across the board. Personally, I have been extremely fortunate to go out to Nantes and to Toulouse with Janine Bethina, who should have been with us today, but unfortunately is having to self-isolate. It's the way it is. Went out to those cities to see what they were doing with the money that they were being given. And there's, everywhere is different. As Martin said, you know, with our friends at Liverpool and Hull, how they did it is very different to how we're doing it. In Nantes, for example, the mayor gives €100,000 a year to culture. wow.
Every year?
Every year. So if you're 10 and you want to do something cultural, he gives you the money to do that. We haven't got that beautiful luxury, but what we have got is a moment in time to move forward. What we know as a business team is that retail is no longer it. Retail is not that moment in time that you want to go and buy something and you go home. You have to create an experience. So we are a team. We are not one person. The City of Culture is ours. It's Martin's, it's yours. What we should stop saying, and what has been really crazy from the start, is, what are you going to do for me, City of Culture? I went to Martin and I said, what the hell can I do for you? What can we do with our businesses in the city centre to make an absolute difference to this moment? The golden thread of the words UK City of Culture has brought in a phenomenal investment to our city. Over the pandemic, we've lost Debenhams. Before that, we'd lost British Home Stores. I'm delighted to tell you today, those businesses are not vacant. British Home Stores gone to the Fraser Group. We're getting a new bicycle organisation coming in. We're getting new retailers coming in, USC and others. But what about Debenhams? 3 floors of West Orchards, they're gone. 3 floors of West Orchards have already got people interested. There's businesses coming in that you would never have thought would be in a shopping centre, because we realise as a business team the experience and culture sits arm in arm with what we're doing. From my learning from going to Nantes and Toulouse, we learnt that we need to make our business sexy and cultural. So from that moment in time, every new business that comes into the city, I have said, you cannot enter Coventry without a piece of art in your business.
Brilliant.
You can't come to my city until you've got something gorgeous. So, just looking at some of our independents, Cafe Morso on Corporation Street has a floor-to-ceiling installation of the Collins Godiva. She looks sensational. Go take a look and buy a coffee. It looks so beautiful. Today we're opening another independent. Did you guys know we have 201 independents in Coventry City Centre? And they're all investing in our city because we're the UK City of Culture. So today we've opened the Metropolis, the most amazing new restaurant that's gone into the bottom of Draper's Bar. But again, it's not just the fact that they're an amazing business in our city and they've opened and they're independent, but they're now training wonderful Coventry and young people in the hospitality trade so that they can take those skills and move on. We're just about to open the first music venue the city centre has had in over 45 years. The Empire onto Hertford Street. That wouldn't be happening without the fact that we are the UK City of Culture. And then personally, I wanted to bring some cultural pizzazz to our amazing city, and went to the team and said what I would like to do is to bring something in called something to do with our show windows, something to do with the windows of the businesses. We created an incredible programme called The Show Windows. But not only that, we've brought in experts to help me learn what I need to do. So next year, we start our reballot as the bid, and we go into ballot in January 23, and I will be coming out of the ballot telling everyone that we will be the first national cultural bid in the UK, because culture is absolutely through the core of everything that we're doing. The Show Windows project, just to give you a little glimpse of that and to show you where to go. The Show Windows project, we're working with the creative director, and that's a beautiful lady called Charlie Levine. Charlie Levine actually creates ITV Create. So if you watch the television of an evening and you see the art, letters ITV that have been created over the last 2 years, that is Charlie Levine. She's from Solihull. She's from Solihull. She lives with us in the bid, and we created the Show Windows. The title of Show Windows came very culturally from L. Baum. Baum, who wrote The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz, and in the same year as he wrote that book, he wrote a book called The Show Windows, which is a moment in time to look into show windows, into businesses, and look differently. What a great time to do a project like that, because for the last 18 months we've been looking out of our windows into our roads, now come back into Coventry and look into the show windows that we're producing. We have some talent and a half. So we opened the book as our friends at the Trust opened the UK City of Culture Year in May. And we opened the book as Cov as Oz. Cov as Oz. Why would we not do that when Baum wrote The Wizard of Oz and our project? So we opened with an incredible artist called Ben Jevons, who created the Coventry scene as Oz, and we've put those on 6 of our businesses. That was May. In June, we worked with our wonderful friends at the Coventry Welcomes, and we supported them with their windows. This month, I am delighted to tell you, is an incredible month, and our installation started yesterday. Our first installation has gone into one of our independents, which is the Yard, and that's a wonderful person called Adam Nathaniel Furman. Adam is actually the artist in residence in King's Cross. He was so excited to be in our city, to bring his art. Do go down to the Yard. The installation is ready for you to see. The next installation that happened yesterday is Mammy Moo. Mammy Moo June. June came in with her son. They're staying at the Telegraph Hotel. And they've put an installation into a national brand. Who would have thought a national brand would care about the fact that we are the UK City of Culture, but New Look have taken Mammy Moo's piece of art, and it's in Lower Precinct, at the back of Lower Precinct as you go out by St John the Baptist Church. Do go take a look. We've then worked with local and regional partners to join us. So another partner that's joined us to help us with the finances is Reba West Midlands. Reba West Midlands are bringing pennies in to help, and our first Reba window is actually being designed by a fantastic architectural team, world-renowned Gensler Europe. Gensler Europe are installing their show window in the 2021 shop from next week. We've got 4 showcase windows with the Reba windows right through the year. We've then got another wonderful partner, Historic
Trish,
England.
I'm sorry. No, it's just I'm really conscious of time.
Apologies.
And it's so lovely to hear somebody.
You can see the passion.
It's so lovely to hear somebody talking so passionately, having lived through the 18 months that we've just lived through, and working in the theatre sector, watching my industry completely collapse. So it is lovely, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just thought I know that you could talk with passion for days, and it's lovely to hear, and it's incredibly impressive what you're doing. And I also wanted to hear about this In Paint We Trust. I think that sounds like, I mean, it all just sounds brilliant, but I'm aware that we need to hear from everybody, because we also have a video from Dr. Franco Bianchini in Italy, but also I want to hear from Debbie as well, who probably has a completely different take on all this, because you don't actually work in Coventry, but you're from Coventry, or are you?
I do work in Coventry, yeah.
Yeah. So what, you live here, don't you, actually?
I live here, and I make my work here, and I'm a theatre maker
movies.
And a filmmaker.
Yeah. So,
film star Trish, what do you do in the building?
What does, so how does this, what does this make you think when you think about Coventry being the city of culture, and how to create lasting legacy for this city that you
I mean, obviously being a filmmaker that sets my films in Coventry, I make a franchise of Christmas films actually called the Nativity Films that are all set in the city. And
Danger in the Manger.
And over the years, you know, I've worked with literally hundreds and hundreds of children from the city, and they've all been in my films and in the stage musicals that have been spin-offs from that. So these children have gone on, in terms of legacy, you know, they've gone on to train professionally. Many of them are working in Hollywood, literally in Hollywood. They have better contracts than I do. They have better dressing room riders than I do. They are doing extremely well. They're in the West End, they're on tour, they're in LA, they're in big movies, they're working for Disney+, they're working for Studio Canal, these big movies, and they're Coventry kids, and they came without a hope, without any experience, without any sort of drive, but they encountered that bit of culture. They encountered opportunity. And what City of Culture has offered all our communities here in this city is a bit of culture and a bit of opportunity. And to be honest, if for people to grab hold of that and see where it takes them is really exciting. And I know from my own personal point of view, it can take you an awful long way. Hopefully not very far away that you never come back, because that's the other thing. that's important about culture. It's about, if we train our young people particularly, we want to retain them. You know, very often we train our young people here in this city with our brilliant university, Coventry University, Warwick University, like one of the top universities in the country. And we lose those graduates. We lose them to London or to the States or wherever. So I'm very passionate about retaining our local talent, giving them a reason to stay in our city and help the next generation. So I decided I wasn't going anywhere, you know, when people entice me to LA or to London. I will work there, of course, but I will not live there, because this is where I want to make my work. And I'm so excited by the whole program, the amazing team have put out there. But I pick up Martin, you know, and Trish's points. Actually, for legacy, for an ongoing commitment to culture, we have to take ownership. We have to own our own City of Culture ideas. And I personally would love to see what we have in the city, a sort of motor fest. I would love to see a culture fest, an annual mini festival that is a mini City of Culture every year, that gives everybody something to work towards all year, from their community perspectives, from school projects, from dance schools, from choirs, art, visual art, digital, filmmaking, anybody, food, anybody and everybody that wants to be working towards this festival, as I say, CovFest or Culture Fest, 3 weeks in the summer. Forget Edinburgh, come to Coventry, because it's about destination. It's about having putting a spotlight on something. You know, it's all very well people getting quality out of what they do, but every now and again you want somebody to notice what you're doing. And having a spotlight like City of Culture is really good. It's good for civic pride, it's good for tourism, it's good for lots of reasons. And we can do that annually. I believe we could. If we get together the right people who are really passionate about it, we can make a program that is inclusive, that just puts everything we've achieved here on the map, and we can grow it year on year on year and get people to come to Coventry and make our own festival, make our own work.
Brilliant idea. Yep. No, that was fantastic. What an exciting idea. I mean, having been involved in the Big Tent since its inception, I can tell you that you just kind of have to do it. You have to get a few people that believe in it and then just jump off the cliff, hold hands and jump off the cliff. I think that's such a fantastic idea. I think towards the end of the session, an email address is going to go up on the screens. So just to say now, if you want to ask any further questions or get in touch or get involved in any way in any of these ideas that have been raised, there will be an email put on the screen. If there isn't, I'll tell you what it is. But should we now have cut to the VT from, I have to keep looking at his name, Dr. Franco Bianchini, who's one of the associate directors for the Centre of Cultural Value in Leeds, and also visiting professor at the Sibelius Academy in Helsinki. I mean, he's global, this guy. So are we okay to cut to VT? Yep.
I'm sorry not to be with you at the festival today. Just the topic I've been asked to talk about is largely the impact of cities of culture. Obviously, these impacts change from place to place. It really depends on what are the local priorities. In some cases, like in Glasgow, which was the European City of Culture in 1990, also in Liverpool in 2008, economic regeneration was one of the key priorities, reinventing the local economy. In other cases, it's more linking the city with new technology, with contemporary culture, particularly the case for heritage cities like Bruges in Belgium, in European Capital of Culture in 2002, and also Salamanca in Spain also in 2002. In other cases, the objective, what they're trying to get out, can be to overcome issues of marginality, can be geographical, political marginality, stigmatization even in some cases, cities with a bad reputation. That was largely the case of Hull, UK City of Culture 2017, which largely worked in that respect. In other cases, you have cities that are trying to invest on young people and on diversity, seeing diversity, immigration as an asset rather than as a problem. And this is the case probably partly of Coventry, UK City of Culture 2021, a strong emphasis on diversity, also on young people, but also the case of places like Rotterdam, which was European Capital of Culture 20 years ago in 2001. So just what have cities achieved? We can perhaps look at the examples of how there was very considerable achievements also in terms of strengthening the cultural sector, raising the levels of ambition of the cultural sector and scaling up the local cultural organizations. The city achieved a lot in terms of widespread participation and also in terms of the high quality of events. There are still problems which are shared by many cities of culture in attracting young audiences and students, particularly people in the 16 to 25 age group. Maybe we need to do some more work on expanding the definition of culture to appeal more to young audiences. This perhaps will not be the problem of Coventry, which has a much more explicit orientation towards young audiences. Hull did well in attracting also people from the most deprived areas of the city, in participating in the activities of City of Culture, except for the 10% most deprived, which did not participate sufficiently in the event. Hull also obtained significant improvements in terms of the local pride and national recognition of the city, especially through the inclusion of the city on the weather map by the BBC, so that most people in the UK could at last more or less identify where the city is in the geography of the UK. There was also significant effects in terms of attracting inward investment, with a total of £517 million of investment, to some extent attributable to the title of UK City of Culture for Hull. So the other question I wanted to discuss is basically what should Coventry do to make sure that you have more sustained long-term impacts. I think Coventry is largely doing the right things in the sense that it is a city of culture which is focused on legacy, where legacy seems to permeate the whole project. It's not something added on, it's not an afterthought. Project management, artistic quality, good artistic leadership, fundraising are important, but it is equally important in the City of Culture team. There are people who know about policy and legacy. Otherwise, you do not have long-term impacts. You also need an attitude from local politicians, which is an attitude of support, but without too much political interference. And in order to have a sustainable legacy, I think you need inclusive leadership. So you need a system of leadership which is broader than a small elite, broader than an individual hyper leader, and that is inclusive of the social and ethnic diversity of the city, and inclusive, very important, of young people. So the empowerment of young people seems to be a key thing for a successful legacy of cities of culture. You also need a legacy strategy that can take many different forms. Some cities left legacies like festivals that continue to operate after the City of Culture. Others left buildings, cultural buildings. Other cities left cultural development funds. Others left agencies that were in charge of running culture-led regeneration strategies, or in charge of continuing to run programs of events, like, for example, Lille, which was European Capital of Culture in the north of France in 2004, left an agency called Lille 3000, which continued to organize high-profile festivals linked with emerging economies in other parts of the world. China, Brazil, India, for example. And these festivals attracted private sector investment from those countries, as well as investment from the governments of those countries. So, these are all, I think, essential elements for a successful legacy. It is important also to recognize that a budget for international projects can be an important continuing legacy. The volunteering program itself, HAL at about 2,400 volunteers, HAL 2017, and managed to maintain them for the years immediately after the 2017 event. These volunteers have worked on a broader range of projects beyond agriculture after 2017, including helping during the pandemic and working also on environmental projects, on different forms of activism in the city. So I would say volunteering itself can be an important legacy of City of Culture. And ultimately, one of the legacies is also the strategy itself that is produced by Cities of Culture. To get the title, you need a strong vision and strategy. So probably one of the greatest legacies for Coventry, which is again reflecting on best practice from other places, is to try to put culture at the center of urban strategy in the city by having a much stronger presence of the arts in schools through creative learning, by having also a much closer alignment between the arts and health policies. We are going to face a crisis. We are already facing a crisis in mental health after the pandemic, by having culture central to the project of urban renewal of the city. Coventry, like many other cities, has to rethink what to do with retail areas, office areas, areas devoted to the nighttime economy, bars and cafes. These areas will need, in many cases, at least to some extent, different uses, and cultural uses can be very important, especially in the interim period, to avoid a dead city centre effect that could be very off-putting also for visitors, investors, and also for local people.
That was perfect timing, because I was just thinking that actually he'd got to the point where he was suggesting stuff that you guys are already all over. Yeah. I mean, he said the impact, leave behind legacy on business, and leave a building, leave a festival, leave a team of volunteers, leave a culture behind that starts with this spotlight of being the City of Culture and then stays on. So actually, I've just realised the significance of the prof is that his gig was to sum up the impact on Hull of being the City of Culture. So that's what he was really talking about. But I feel like everything he suggested, you guys have already got covered.
I think that's right broadly. I think his assertion, though, about needing to ensure that culture is within every policy area is this bit that we still need to work hard at. Yeah. And so we've started that, and the City Council have been amazing, but actually to be able to convene today national thinkers, national policy makers to go, actually culture should be impacting every single bit of our lives. And rather than being, I guess, ghettoised into a department, an events department, or trying to find some money for art, actually it needs to come from health, transport, education, environment. All of these policy areas need to be using culture as a tool for delivering their policy areas, and we have to get better at saying what we're doing matters and changes lives, and it cannot be dismissed as the soft, fluffy, nice-to-have tourism piece.
And I think that's one of the great significances of the way that you frame this as City of Cultures rather than just culture is incredibly clever, because the arts always gets kicked into the side as, oh, that's the fluffy hedonists who go off and indulge themselves and don't do anything useful. And you're absolutely right that if we can include the arts and cultures in every area, we'd be doing everybody a massive favour. And you're absolutely right about mental health and education and transport. I mean, everyone, cultures and culture should be part of everything. And I really hate this idea that it gets sidelined and, it becomes termed as sort of self-indulgent. Do you know what I mean? That, you know,
I think there's room for that though as well. I want the fluffy, soft, entertaining stuff. I want that as well. I mean, I'm being greedy here. You know, we won't be, absolutely, there's merit in it happening for the sake of happening. But
it's this idea
it's got to be more than that.
But I hate the idea that the arts is self-indulgent. Yeah. That we do it to make ourselves feel
and exclusive, I think.
Yes.
That's the problem, that for many people, you mention the word the arts and they just think it's for someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, as some people do about sport. Yes. You know, it's not for everybody as we know it, but actually it is for everybody, because the benefits of the arts we now know are so much more far-reaching than the actual work that you end up seeing. So if you work together on a community project, a choir, you know, if you're isolated and you join a choir, your life can change for the better. You get friends, you get access to people and relationships. It can change your life. It can make your life worth living. It can stop you from killing yourself. Art changes and saves lives. That's just one tiny example. But, you know, you have to blow that up large and understand the benefit and the value we need to put on arts with a small a. It is absolutely huge and financial, economically viable. As we've heard a lot about, I suppose, generally speaking, about theatre, because it's been in such a terrible state. You know, we're talking £1 billion industry. Film and television, a multi-billion pound industry in the UK, for the UK. I mean, it's another pet project of mine to get a film and TV studio in this city that it has attached to it a children and young people's film and television school. Because the future is growing in this industry, particularly with the streamers and Netflix and Amazon. But also, you know, if you're at school and you're not academic, but you're really good at woodwork, do kids even know that if they like woodwork, they could become a carpenter on the next Harry Potter film? Do they even know that they could be a track layer, the person that lays the tracks where the camera moves? If they want to be a delivery driver, are they aware they could deliver artists and actors to film sets and get all the gossip on the way? Like, you know, there's so many jobs, real jobs, well-paid jobs in our industries for people that are not academic, that don't want to be directors and writers, just want to work for a living. There's so many well-paid jobs, but they're in Cardiff, right? They're in Liverpool, they're in Manchester, they're in London. Why aren't they in Coventry? I have no idea, because we are right smack bang in the middle of the country. We have so many young people hungry, passionate to find a career and job security. Build it, they will come, we will come. Come on, Coventry.
Great, that was a brilliant idea. So I think now we should take some questions from the audience. Now we've got this clever thing where you can tap in, but there's actually a hand raised now. You're going to have to shout. There are microphones, yes. But try not, I think...
My name is Noor Aziz.
Okay, hi Noor.
The speaker from Leeds mentioned about the need for the legacy to start from the onset. However, my experience is the legacy workshop just happened 3 weeks ago. We are already on the middle and towards the end, and I think that's something not happening for us. That's one thing. And secondly, Debbie, I really like your idea of culture festival, where myself and Maru have worked with Trish, but 4 years ago tried to create it, but with some reason because of the money, isn't it, Trish, that we got to blow the idea away. But that is a welcome if that could happen. And thirdly, to sustain the legacy, it is the grassroots that need more support. They need support to become more sexy and deliver projects that are more anti-aging. I mean, not anti-aging project, but sustainable, the longevity of it. It is the support. I don't know where we can see, I can't see that's happening at the moment, because myself representing community grassroots for people deprived neighborhood. That's it,
So you're worried that you can't see a legacy?
I can't see whether the positive that is going to to the impact of it, because it's already, the legacy workshop, for example, that's very, very important, should happen during, you know, the making of the strategy itself. But now it's happened in the middle. So how are we going to make it whole?
Martin, can I hand that to you?
Yeah, thanks for that. So the workshops you talk about are one part of our legacy process. We've been doing this since day one. As I say, it's built into a 10-year cultural strategy, and we've been imagining what comes. So we've established 4 longer-term impacts. So we've got a sense of what the legacy will look like. What these workshops are doing is trying to understand what might be the structure in order to deliver that. But what we've been doing all the way through is identifying what matters, what will the priorities be. There's definitely a huge amount of work happening in the communities, but there will be communities that aren't part of this yet, and it's still not too late. The point is, City of Culture programme continues to evolve, develop during the year, and indeed it doesn't stop in May 2022. It absolutely goes beyond. So there's a spotlight year this year, but actually legacy will come from well-resourced community organisations carrying this forward.
So, no, I think in a way the answer to your question is Martin saying that the workshops have been about listening, having this opportunity to have workshops in order to listen to different communities and grassroots organisations in order to learn how you can then
I mean these recent workshops are just the next chapter of the conversation we've been having.
It's not the end.
And it's not the start either.
But it is such an important point that you just raised, because what you're saying is we have the passion, we have the ideas, but they fall down at an execution level. And that's something that can easily be repeated and repeated and repeated forever, you know. What you need is your passion and your ideas met with facilitation, like with high-end facilitation, people that know how to make your ideas a reality. And if your problem, your block is the fact that there's not enough support on a grassroots level, then that becomes part of the big picture. Let's take our festival, our new arts festival. So you're saying, that's great, but our communities won't be able to get involved in that festival because we're not supported, we're not funded. Okay, then we cannot run an arts festival unless as part of that we give support and funding to the grassroots. That's part of the ethos of the festival. So we listen to you, we understand, we find a solution, we put the creator with the producer, we facilitate and we execute, and we end up being happy.
Brilliant.
Well said, though.
Yeah, very good. I mean, a lot of that, unfortunately, does come down to money, doesn't it? You can have all the greatest ideas in the world, but if somebody doesn't actually cough up the...
It comes down to fundraising, and it comes down to the right person being in the right position to generate that money and persuade people and influence. I mean,
somebody, but just, I mean, I'm sure Debbie could raise money in an afternoon because she's so passionate. Actually, all 3 of you could, but it is, you need people to talk passionately, don't you, to the people with the checkbooks.
I mean, we decided to do the show windows project before we had all the funding. We had some financial support from the City of Culture Trust, which was amazing, our own bid money, but we took the mantle and we went to the National ACE team and we said we would like to be the first bid to get a national amount of money. And they listened to us, and we had that conversation with them, and I'm delighted to say that we received £150,000 for the show windows project that will not only allow us to deliver some quality for this year, but then set us on our mantle ready for next year. And it's like anything with these wonderful funding streams. Once you've done it once, that is the biggest hurdle. You've then got an incredible relationship with these wonderful funders. You deliver on what it is that you've said that you were going to do. You can go back and ask for more. So for the first time ever in the UK, a business improvement district, we went out and said, we're going to be good enough to deliver the show windows, but we don't just want to do it that it's a tick in the box exercise. We absolutely want to do it that it has a massive impact, especially after a pandemic, when we need to show our businesses the biggest love to help Coventry City Centre recover. We worked tirelessly for that. If any of you has applied for funding in a big way, oh my God. But, you know, I'm honoured and delighted to say, because of the fantastic support through the City of Culture Trust team, Charlie Levine, and everyone, we came together and we got it. And we did it. You know, I know we talked about doing stuff years ago, but there's never been the funding in place. It's a moment in time for Coventry to say, we're good enough. So go
It's a
out
springboard,
there and
isn't
tell
it?
people it is a springboard.
A giant
it's the beginning.
springboard.
Yes, it's absolutely. Debbie, it's the beginning of a moment. You've put Coventry on the map with those great things you've been doing, but it is a moment to move forward.
I wonder if there's a DCMS policy on post-pandemic legacy for the arts. I actually don't know if there is. There should be. And perhaps I'll write something about that, because actually one of the things that the Department for Media, Culture and Sport should be doing now is looking to help not just businesses get back on their feet, but cultures. And actually, where better to start than the City of Culture and say what we're going to do is give Coventry some funding to have a festival, so that we can try and we can build back. You know, it's all about build back better, build back better, which is great, and businesses do need that support, but so do the arts, and so does culture.
Absolutely, and it's proof of concept, isn't it? I mean, here we're in the process of it's not me, it's Martin, but you know, Coventry's in the process of delivering this amazing City of Culture year in the most trying of circumstances, and delivering it they are, and this is a moment to say, okay, we just want to do that on a smaller scale. It won't be as expensive, it won't be as challenging, it won't be as difficult, so it's going to be easier and cheaper. What's not to get?
I think a conversation with the Arts Council and the Secretary of State is
there's a question on the slide there about the what's the legacy and how it's going to be funded, and I guess to give some reassurance there always is some investment from DCMS, from the Arts Council, from City Council, from Combined Authority to sustain some of this activity beyond 22, but there's much more money to be raised, and that will happen as and when there's a clear plan. That clear plan has to be in place by the end of this calendar year. So by December, there'll be a legacy plan in place for the city.
And then you will get funding.
And it's a funded legacy plan.
Right, okay,
and so with the intention then that gives us a springboard, as we suggest, to then unlock other funding opportunities, but not necessarily for the trust, for organisations. Because the other thing to say is the trust has been successful at raising money, which then it distributes, but so has the cultural sector. I mean, an extraordinary amount of new money coming into the city, nothing to do with us, but people feeling empowered, confident, and using the City of Culture's convening power to have those conversations. And what we risk blowing here is that convening power. We've got a short window of attention. The government is looking at us, the media is looking at the city, and we have to use this next 9 months really to ensure that focus remains on the city and the circus doesn't move to Southampton, Bradford, whoever it might be, who's the next City of Culture. So we've got a really complex task here as a partnership to ensure that we continue to make noise during this year and hold policy makers to account, make sure government is continuing to look at this city, because we do have a once-in-a-generation opportunity here.
Well, best of luck with that. I mean, anyone that's ever filled in an Arts Council funding form will know how life-shortening that process is. But if you've got a structure in place where they will then listen to you, that is great. Right, do we have another question on the screen or in the... any questions from the audience? Or anything coming up on the screen? Hello, yes. Would you like to come and speak into the microphone? It's Lady Godiva.
It is.
Only in Coventry.
Yeah.
Hi, Prue.
You look fabulous.
Well, thank you. I've just been supporting a new restaurant, which is giving work for young people. So that's wonderful just before I came. So I think Coventry's got so much going for it at the minute, and it has got the highlight on it. But I work with so many people and have done for many years, so it's not just something for City of Culture, but I do believe that we've got so much that we can offer. Within my group that I work with is the Godiva Sisters. We also work with heritage, we work with storytelling, we work with deprived areas. But how many people know that? Do they think you just dress up and that's you? I have tried knocking on doors, and because I do believe that if you knock hard enough, maybe somebody will listen to what we actually do. So our sisters come from all parts of the world but live in our city, and we support each other, but they represent their communities. As Noor, who just spoke, she's one of our Godiva sisters, Malaysian Godiva sisters. We've got Margaret here, is
somebody
from
waving
the
over there.
Chinese community. We've got, who have we got?
Saya
Day. So our sisters, we reach out to 30 different ethnics, cultures, faiths. We put on something that I researched some years ago, back in the middle 1990s, took a long time to get permission because we don't have a lot of money, because we're very enthusiastic. And because we're always out doing things and helping people and people asking us to do something and saying yes, we don't really have any resources to put into, say, a business to say, make this work as my mother gave me the legacy to say, make it a charity, to make it the Godiva Trust, rather than just all the work you've done for the last 39 years to just fizzle out, because it's done a lot of work in education, to bring arts into education, to get children to dress up and be Godiva. After they've seen a performance from us, they answer questions, they be Godiva. And all our sisters have heroes, so we say that those heroes are on the platform with Godiva. But we haven't been able to achieve any working relationship with the City of Culture 21, which would be...
Yeah, we
do.
But we haven't really had any meaningful conversation, or how can we help each other. We will continue to do what we do because we have a passion for the city, and we love Coventry, we love its people, we know the people. And, you know, the Dame Godiva's Day, which is this feast day, which is the only day to Godiva that we've brought back, we've worked with communities and schools and made wonderful things happen with music. Can that not be something, I mean, I've kept saying it will be anyway, but wouldn't it be good if this year, City of Culture, we were given some sort of boost to say, you know, they're doing the right thing, let's work in collaboration. We work with collaboration with all communities, everyone.
And you have been doing...
And have been. So this is my 39th year as Godiva for the city. Next year, 40 years. It's a lifetime. It's a lifetime, really. And a commitment without pay, without any money from the council. It was a council decision and an official title to be. I haven't just dressed up and said, oh, I'm Lady Godiva. It was, you know, it's an appointment from the city, and I have worked in our twin cities, and they've appreciated it. They've paid for me to go over, not as a wages, but for the fare, to be looked after in a hotel, but to work with schools, to work with their cities, with their processions, to work with their communities. But it's not sort of, you know, I've worked in Russia, in Volgograd, in Kiel in Germany, in Dresden, in Cork in Ireland, in Belgium. You know, they appreciate that what we do is bringing the story of the whole of Coventry with us, not just about Godiva, that's part of it, but it's the whole heritage, also peace and reconciliation. You know, it's more than just dressing up. Basically.
I'm going to have to...
Sorry.
No, I'm going to have to stop
because we've got to wrap. Get a documentary crew, make a film.
That's a very good idea. We've got to... I've got to wrap the whole session.
I would like to speak to Debbie afterwards, because I think she's got the same heart. No, it needs someone that understands that you're passionate.
But I suggest
Thank you.
Go and have a cup of coffee and chat afterwards, because I've got to wrap this session up because we have another session. But thank you very much, Lady Godiva. And a huge thank you to the panel for such passionate and inspiring words. I really, really hope and believe, actually, that you will leave a legacy, because you are so committed to it. And I think there will be a Debbie Isitt film studio, yeah.
Not Debbie Isitt,
Godiva Film Studios, and that you will make films here, and that you will make a great success of this, because, crikey, if you can do it in the middle of a pandemic, then you can do anything. So congratulations, thank you for the session. Thank you all for being here and coming to the big tent and supporting, and let's give the panel a big round of applause.